Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, part number 10. So in the last video we were able to register, logging in a user, etc. One of the issues we did get is the fact that we do not validate any kind of the field. So example, if a user send a password and a confirm password who do not match both of them, we still just create the user and we don't really care about that right now. Also, we don't verify it's a real email, plus also we don't verify any kind of length and stuff like that. The only validation we do, so if we go to our mutation resolver, is the fact that when we update our, example, update a meetup, we check for the name, we check for the description, we do this, we do the same for the create meetup, but I don't like the fact that you have this logic there. What I mean by that is in some other video, we're gonna kind of move up all those logic to like a domain place. So finally, this domain stuff is gonna do all our kind of use case and thing like that. But I want the kind of a controller or resolver to do the validation. And the fact that I'm copy and pasting that, I don't really like it. So what I'm gonna do, it's almost gonna be all what we've done in the REST API tutorial, but we're gonna change it a bit. So what we're gonna do, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna jump here inside our Meet Me Up folder, and we're gonna create a brand new folder, and we're gonna call that validator. Inside a validator, we're gonna create a new file called validator. So first, before we go further, I know I can have used also validation or a validator from Go Playground, which is pretty popular, like Go Playground. I feel it's pretty nice. The fact that, example, if we look at here some simple, you finally just put the validate like that. Like you say, first name is required, validate, etc. The thing is, I mean, I like them. I will use them. It just, I feel in this tutorial, it's gonna be better to just, I mean, we want to learn Go, so we're gonna play with Go here. But also the fact that, example, in one of my app, a lot of the validation was not Boolean. Like that was not the thing. They don't have the stuff I want. For sure, you can add thing on top of them, but yeah. And I think one of the issue I did get is the fact that it's when you want to print the error, it become quite messy. You're gonna see what I mean in the next video, where what I want finally is to return kind of like an array of each key is gonna be the field and the value is gonna be the error. So this way in your front end, it's much more easier to show, like example, okay, input email, it's not a valid email, password is not a valid password and stuff like that. Maybe it's because I'm coming more from a front end background than I want this kind of stuff, but yeah. I say use those libraries. They are tests, battle tests and stuff like that. And what I'm gonna show surely don't gonna be the best practice, but we're gonna learn some new stuff. So the way we want to work with this validator, okay, it's the first thing we want is to create a struct called validator. We're gonna handle all the error we're gonna get inside the life cycle of our request, okay? So this one's gonna have an errors. And this thing's gonna be a map of string, okay? So this error right there is gonna be all the error we're gonna have. Example, we're gonna have a map. So example, you're gonna have like a email, and then we're gonna have not valid email. This is what we want. After that, we're gonna have maybe password, not long enough, something like that. So this is what we want. After that, one thing I want to create a constructor for that. So a constructor is gonna just return a pointer to this validator, and what we want to do is return like that. But the thing is, I don't want to map a string like this. What I want is to call a make, where I'm gonna build the map. The thing is, in Go, if you don't build the map first and you try to put something inside that, you're gonna have an error, because that's gonna be, you're gonna try to put something on nil. So yeah, so here we create a brand new validator. And one of the functions we're gonna have inside this one, and that's gonna make more sense for you, we're gonna add a method to this validator called isValid. This thing just gonna return a boolean, and its only job is to return if the v.error is equal to 0. So if we have no error, so that's the beauty of Go, you can put len on almost not everything, but a lot of the thing, like array, pointer, slice, and stuff like that, and map. And so when this thing gonna return 0, that means we have no error, so this is an empty map. So this is what we want. So the first one we're gonna work with the simplest one. We're gonna create inside the validator a new file called mint_length. So here we're gonna just create those we really need inside our app. But if you want to follow this pattern for your app, just add other thing, and that's gonna be just good. So here we're gonna add a method to this validator struct called min_length. The way with min_length work is we want to have a field and a value, both gonna be a string. And we want to check for the height, so I call that height, but this is finally the number of character minimum like you want, or you can call that a min character, but I call that height, and bool. So this is what we want to return. We want to return a boolean. First thing we do is we check if inside this map we have this field already. So if we have it already, so remember, if you've done some Go before, you can match. So when you match a map, so example, if my map, it's again email Bob, the Gmail, error that will be not valid. If I'm doing something like, I can do email v.error, and now here I can check example for email, okay? I can do this. The thing is, here, if the email don't exist, we're gonna give you back the default value of the string. So remember in Go, each field have a default value if you don't provide nothing. A number is gonna be 0, a pointer is gonna be nil, a string is gonna be an empty string, etc. And it get pretty hard to know all those, not to know all those, but how to finally do this inside your flow. So what I mean by that is, if I have that, if I have the email like this, that's perfect. My email is gonna return me with this one. But if I have nothing, this email now is gonna become an empty string. Now, each time I need to do to check if email is not an empty string. But example later, if your map have other thing, you're gonna maybe need to check for numbers, stuff like that. So Go came with the idea about putting another value here, while you can use OK. And the beauty of OK is gonna always be a boolean, false or true. So now it becomes much more easier to do if it's not OK. So yeah, so that's why I do this like that. So now in this case, we check if it's true. So you see, we do a if in line. So finally here there will be the field example. We check for the OK, and after that we check if this is OK. At this point here, I want to just return false. And why that? It's because the way I want my validation to work, I want to be able, example, to say first thing it's required. After that, the other one, it's a valid email, something like that. So I don't want the valid email to override the require. I always want the first one at the top to be the one with the error. After that here, I'm gonna check if the value, length of the value, it's smaller than the height. So what happened now, if it's smaller, now I can just inject to this error to the field, the error I want to add, and I'm gonna use printf, so this way I can return a string formatted. And now I can say %s, because I know that's gonna be a string. And here I can show you something with Golang. It's example, if I do option enter, I can say add format string argument, and now I provide the argument. So I'm gonna say field. Because they know it's a string, they're gonna add this %s. So now I can do must be at least. Now I'm gonna put parentheses like that. And now here, I'm gonna redo again the same add format string, and I'm gonna use height. Because they know height, it's gonna be an integer. They're gonna use %d because that's the thing you can show for a number. And now I'm gonna say character long. I'm coming from, like, example, I've done some Laravel and stuff like that in the past, and that's the kind of error I like to receive in the front end and things like that. And I kind of copy the way where you have like the number of character, etc. in the string. So now you in the front end, it's much more simpler to show this to your user and say, hey, you give me 2, you give me that, but we want to receive at least 6 characters. And finally we return false, so it's not valid. And else we return true. So this is it for the min length. It's gonna be a pretty simple one. We're gonna test that in the other video. Now we're gonna jump back in the other one. So the other one we're gonna work, it's gonna be the email. So email. Here, okay, I'm gonna copy paste one line. I'm gonna paste that there, okay. So this thing, it's I found that online, okay. I'm not smart enough to create this kind of stuff, but finally just a regex to check if an email is valid. The repo link is gonna be in the description, but also I think I'm gonna just paste this line of code, so I don't want you to write all this stuff, but it's just a way finally a regex to just check if it's a valid email. I don't even know almost everything here. I just know that they check like after the at symbol, they have some stuff and things like that. So yeah. Now here, we're gonna add that to our validator. We're gonna add is email. We want a field, and we want the email. It's gonna be a string. And we'll return a boolean. Again, the same pattern, and I know we don't like to copy and paste, but I want that. So here, if the email rejects, don't match the string email I'm passing. So if it's not a valid email, I'm gonna add the error that field. And the reason why I have field and not just because I know that's gonna be email, it's maybe because you're gonna say like admin email or something like that. So I want the field to match whatever you pass. And now yeah, I can say not a valid email. Return false because it's not valid, and return true. Like that. After that, we want to create another validator called equal to field. So the equal to field is gonna be fun. Okay, this one's gonna be pretty fun to write, just because we're gonna learn some new stuff. Here is gonna be equal to field, and we want to return a boolean. So the equal to field is gonna be in our case where a user gonna send a password and a confirm password. We want both to always equal the same. So what that meant is, here I want to receive a field with a string. The value here, because maybe in other place we're gonna have a time where that don't always gonna be a string, because here, yes, it's pretty simple because it's password and confirm password, and we know that's gonna be a string, but maybe that's gonna be like a boolean, or maybe that's gonna be like a number or something like that. So that's why in Go you can use an empty interface, and that's gonna match against almost everything. And after I'm gonna say to equal the field, so it's gonna be a string, to equal value, an empty interface. So field string is gonna be is gonna be the confirm password and the confirm password value. To equal field is gonna be password and the password value. So now here we check again for our awesome check of the map. So if we have already an error to this field, we return false. Here now we check if the value is not equal to the to equal value. Now we're gonna send the error field, so that's gonna be confirm password in this case. Format the printf because I want to format the string. I'm gonna say %s must equal %s. We know both field and to equal field are string, so we can use that, and field and to equal field. Finally, we return false because it's not valid, and we return true. I can remove that. And the last one for today, it's gonna be the require, and I left the better one for the end. So we're gonna create the method to the validator again. We're gonna say require, where we have a field, and the value is gonna be an empty interface. Here, I still want to do my check. Oops, I forgot to put field. Now here, we want to do some check with the value, okay? We want to check if it's there. The thing is, not everything have the same way to check finally if it's empty or not. So I think it's time to maybe play a bit with the reflect library. So what we want to do is to create a value from the reflect library. So value reflect value of, and I pass a value. So what this thing does, if we look, it's value of, return a new value initialized to the concrete value stored in the interface I. So finally, this thing, all this stuff, it's a way for you to kind of reflect to the type, because remember, Go, it's a strictly type language, and the thing is, sometimes the type are not at compile time, but like in runtime, and that's the kind of stuff we want to check. So what you can do with this kind of reflect is to check the kind of the stuff you receive, okay? Because remember, right now we return an empty interface, so here I can return a boolean, string, number, pointer, whatever you want, a map. So now here what I can do, I like to use switch for this kind of stuff because we're gonna have a lot of stuff. I'm gonna check for the t.kind. So t.kind, return the kind. So if v is the 0, you return false, v return invalid. So finally, you return the kind, and the kind is gonna be all those stuff. So they can give you back like a boolean, an int, an array, channel, whatever you want. And now here I can do a case statement. I can check for the reflect. Then hey, so if this is a string, or maybe it's an array, or maybe it's a slice, or maybe it's a map, the way to know if it's finally empty, it's gonna be by checking. So if this is all of those case, checking example, the length, it's equal to 0, and this length, so you panic finally if the length it's not an array, chan, map, slice, or string. So that's kind of why I do this check up right there. So I want to make sure that I don't check the length of a number, because that's gonna panic. And now, so that mean here, so if it's equal to that, that's gonna return true, else that's gonna return false. So the thing is here, I would like that to move that up inside his own function. So what I'm gonna do, so I'm gonna return false here, and I'm gonna take all that, and I'm gonna extract to method function, and I'm gonna call that is empty. Okay, so this is empty. Here I can do a if against that. And now if you follow what I say, it's example here I can check to the reflect, oops, not recover but reflect example, if inside our case it's an int, so although we know then it's an empty, it's inside an int, we can check example if it's equal to 0. So you see, but in our case this is the only thing we need. So if it's empty, so that means we don't have the thing we want, we're gonna say v.error.fill fmt sprintf is required, and we pass it the field, and we return false, else we return true. So yeah, so the reflect library, I mean, I think it's almost the last kind of library to kind of learn. I just feel like it's something like you really don't need to use all the time, because you don't really want to pass empty interface a lot. In Go, I feel like when you pass a lot of empty interface, it's a bad design. But in our case, it's because we want to create like more a generic way of check if it's required. Like for sure, you can check require string, something like that, and check for value string and build that for each kind of the type you want. But I feel like this one is pretty simple, pretty clean, and I'm able to live with just this little amount of reflect there. Now, the only thing I want to finish for this video, because in the next one we're gonna use this little library we just built. I want to create an interface called validation. It's gonna be an interface. This thing is gonna have only one method you need to follow if you want to get the contract, and that's gonna be validate. And validate is gonna be a bool map string. It's gonna be the only thing I ask you to follow when you want to get this interface. And because you're gonna get this interface, now I'm gonna be able to use it a lot of the place in our code and kind of use Go in more generic way and use whatever validation now we want. So for now, maybe it's kind of like maybe not that simple to know what's gonna happen with all of that, but don't worry, in the next video you're gonna see how everything's go, and you're gonna feel it's pretty simple. And for me, like, I like it like, yes, you're gonna write a bit more code, but you have more controls. So I hope you enjoy, and we're gonna talk in the next video. If you have any question, hit me on the comment, and don't forget for this email stuff regex, I'm gonna put it's gonna be in the repo, but also you can find that in the description and just copy paste this line. So I hope you enjoy, and we talk in the next one. Bye everyone.